Micro-expressions. A human face is a billboard. We use it to project confidence, happiness, remorse, whatever the situation calls for. It's a carefully curated mask we present to the world. But for a fraction of a second, the mask slips. And in that fraction, the truth explodes into view. This is the world of micro-expressions. And for the FBI, it's the first crack in a liar's armor. Coined by psychologist Paul Ekman, whose work became the bedrock of modern deception detection, a microexpression is an involuntary facial expression that lasts for as little as 1/25th of a second. It's a flash of pure, unfiltered emotion that occurs when a person is consciously trying to conceal how they feel. They might be telling you they're not angry, but for a split second, you see the tightened jaw, the thinned lips, and the lowered brows of pure rage. They might claim to be sad about a colleague's misfortune, but a fleeting, almost imperceptible smirk, a flash of contempt or delight, known as duping delight, leaks out. This isn't a hunch, it's biology. The facial muscles are controlled by two distinct neural pathways. The pyramidal tract controls voluntary expressions, the smiles we put on for photos. But the extrapyramidal tract controls involuntary expressions, the ones hardwired to our emotional centers in the brain. When you lie, you are actively suppressing one system while the other is fighting to betray you. An interrogator isn't just listening to your words. They're watching for these lightning-fast emotional glitches. They're looking for the dissonance. The suspect who claims he wasn't scared might show a flash of widened eyes and a raised upper eyelid, the universal sign of fear. It's over before most people even notice it, but to a trained eye, that flicker is a confession. The face doesn't just lie, it fights with itself. And the truth, however brief, always leaves a trace. Contradictory body language. Words are cheap. They're the easiest part of a lie to construct. The body, however, has a much harder time faking it. When a person is being deceptive, their body often stages a quiet rebellion against the words coming out of their mouth. This is the realm of contradictory body language, where the gestures betray the script. The most classic example is the head shake. A suspect might be verbally agreeing with a statement, saying, "Yes, that's what happened," while unconsciously performing a minuscule, almost imperceptible side-to-side head shake. It's a nonverbal no that undercuts the entire verbal performance. The conscious mind is delivering the lie, but the subconscious, instinctual part of the brain is screaming the truth through the body. And Adrian is trained to spot these moments of incongruence. But it goes deeper than a simple head shake. Look at the torso and feet. A person might be engaged in a seemingly open and honest conversation, but their torso is angled away from the interrogator, or their feet are pointed towards the door. This is called ventral denial. The front of our body, our ventral side, is where our vital organs are. We instinctively turn it away from things that we perceive as a threat. Verbally, they're cooperating. Physically, their body is looking for an escape route. Another powerful tell is the shoulder shrug. A liar might make a definitive statement, like, "I am absolutely certain I was at home that night," but accompany it with a slight one-sided shoulder shrug. A full two-shoulder shrug signifies uncertainty. A tiny aborted shrug during a statement of certainty is a massive red flag. It's the body leaking a profound lack of confidence in its own words. The liar's performance is a puppet show, but they've forgotten to control all the strings.
The verbal-nonverbal disconnect. The disconnect between words and body language isn't just about big contradictory gestures. It's about the entire symphony of communication being out of tune. A truthful person's verbal and nonverbal signals are typically in perfect harmony. Their gestures emphasize their words, their tone matches their emotional state, and the timing is seamless. In a liar, this harmony collapses into a jarring, awkward mess. One of the key areas an FBI profiler watches is the timing of gestures. In an honest person, a gesture will slightly precede or happen in perfect sync with the word it's meant to emphasize. If someone is angry, they might slam their fist on the table as they say the word angry. But a liar's brain is working overtime. It's managing the narrative, monitoring the listener's reaction, and suppressing the truth. This immense cognitive load causes a delay. The liar might say, "I'm so angry," and then a second later make a fist. The gesture is an afterthought, a piece of calculated stagecraft rather than a genuine expression of emotion. This extends to facial expressions. A genuine smile, a Duchenne smile, involves both the mouth and the muscles around the eyes, creating crow's feet. A fake smile is just the mouth. A liar might tell a happy story, but the smile never reaches their eyes. The same goes for sadness. Real sadness pulls the eyebrows up and together in the middle. A deceptive performance of sadness might involve a downturned mouth, but the eyebrows remain flat. The entire performance feels hollow because the emotional orchestra is missing key instruments. The words are playing one song, the face is playing another, and the body is in a different key entirely. To a trained interrogator, this isn't just awkwardness, it's the sound of a lie being constructed in real time.
Changes in vocal pitch and cadence. The human voice is an incredibly sensitive instrument, and stress is a terrible musician. When a person lies, their body enters a state of low-grade fight or flight. The autonomic nervous system kicks in, causing a cascade of physiological changes, and the voice is one of the first casualties. FBI agents are trained to listen not just to what is said, but how it's said, listening for the subtle tremors of deception. One of the most common indicators is a rise in vocal pitch. Stress causes the vocal cords to tighten, resulting in a higher, sometimes squeakier tone than normal. A person might be speaking in a perfectly normal register, but when asked a difficult or incriminating question, their voice may suddenly jump up a few notes. It's the sound of their body's internal alarm bells going off. Beyond pitch, agents listen for changes in cadence and fluency. Crafting a lie is cognitively demanding. The brain has to invent a plausible story, keep its details straight, and avoid contradicting known facts. This mental juggling act often leads to a slower rate of speech. There may be more pauses, more ums and ahs, as the brain struggles to keep up. Conversely, if a lie has been heavily rehearsed, the speech might sound too smooth, delivered in a rapid, almost robotic monotone that lacks the natural ebb and flow of genuine conversation. They're not recalling a memory, they're reciting a script. Another vocal tell is a sudden drop in volume, almost to a mumble, when delivering the core deceptive statement. It's as if the speaker is subconsciously reluctant to even hear their own lie. The voice is a direct line to the emotional brain, and when that brain is under the stress of deception, it can't help but broadcast its discomfort.
Eye movement. Let's kill a myth right now. The pop psychology idea that looking up and to the right means someone is lying is complete, unadulterated nonsense. This theory, born from the early days of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, has been repeatedly debunked by scientific studies. There is no single direction a person's eyes move that magically indicates a lie. In fact, FBI trainers spend a significant amount of time telling new agents to unlearn this exact piece of fiction. So if they're not looking for a specific direction, what are they looking for? The truth is in the change, not the direction. What a skilled interrogator looks for is a break in the subject's normal pattern of eye behavior. During the initial rapport-building phase of an interview, an agent will carefully observe how a person's eyes move when they're accessing real memories. Some people look up, some people look down, some people look to the side. It doesn't matter. This is their baseline. The red flag appears when, in response to a critical question, that established pattern suddenly shatters. Another major indicator is the duration of eye contact. The amateur liar, believing that liars can't look you in the eye, will overcompensate. They will lock you in an intense, unblinking stare trying to project sincerity. It feels unnatural and aggressive because it is. Normal conversation involves frequent, brief breaks in eye contact. This constant, predatory staring is a performance. On the other end of the spectrum, a sudden and complete refusal to make any eye contact at a critical moment can be just as telling. But perhaps the most reliable eye-related cue is blink rate. The average person blinks about 15 to 20 times per minute. Under the stress of lying, that rate can increase dramatically. It's an involuntary response to the cognitive and emotional pressure. They're not looking up and to the right, they're blinking like a faulty neon sign signaling a massive internal power surge.
Over-elaboration. When a person tells the truth, they are retrieving a memory. That memory might be fuzzy, it might have gaps, and they will usually be comfortable admitting that. They'll say things like, "I don't remember the exact time," or "I'm not sure what he was wearing." Their story feels real because it's imperfect, just like memory itself. A liar, however, isn't retrieving a memory. They are creating and selling a product, and they are terrified the customer won't buy it. This terror leads to one of the oldest classic tells of deception, over-elaboration. A liar feels an overwhelming need to make their story sound plausible. To do this, they pack it with an avalanche of unnecessary details. Ask them what they did last night, and they won't just say, "I went to the movies." They'll tell you the exact time they left the house, the traffic they hit on the way, the name of the person who sold them the ticket, the specific brand of popcorn they bought, and a detailed critique of the film's cinematography. They are building a fortress of facts, hoping the sheer volume of information will be mistaken for authenticity. The problem is it sounds rehearsed. It sounds like a script. An FBI agent will often let a suspect spin this web of detail, listening patiently. Then, later in the interview, they'll ask the suspect to recount the story again, but this time in reverse chronological order. A truthful person can usually do this, albeit with some difficulty, because they're navigating a real memory. A liar will almost always fall apart. Their carefully constructed, forward-moving script shatters when they're forced to go backward. The details get mixed up, the timeline collapses because they aren't remembering an event, they're trying to remember a story they invented. The truth is simple. Lies are complicated, and in that complication, they reveal themselves. Evasive language. Deception isn't just about telling a lie, it's also about avoiding the truth. A skilled liar knows that a direct falsehood can be disproven. A more sophisticated technique is to use language to create a fog of evasion, answering questions without ever giving a straight answer. Interrogators are linguistic detectives, trained to spot the verbal tricks people use to hide. One of the most common tactics is the use of distancing language. A truthful person will say, "I didn't crash my car." A deceptive person is more likely to say, "I didn't crash that car." By replacing "my" with "that," they are subconsciously putting emotional and psychological distance between themselves and the event. They're talking about it as if they were a third-party observer, not a participant. Similarly, they might use passive voice. Instead of "I made a mistake," they'll say "mistakes were made." The phrasing absolves them of direct responsibility. Another powerful tell is answering a question with a question, or with a statement of denial that doesn't actually answer what was asked. If you ask, "Did you steal the money?" an honest person will give a direct no. A deceptive person might say, "Why would I do something like that?" or "I would never do that." These are not denials of the act. They are statements about their character. They are avoiding the specific allegation. They may also use non-committal phrases like "to the best of my knowledge" or "as far as I can recall" to give themselves an escape hatch if their story is later contradicted. They build their sentences with trap doors, ready to slip away the moment the truth gets too close. Grooming gestures. When the brain is under the stress of deception, it triggers a flood of anxiety. To cope with this, the body engages in what are known as pacifying behaviors, or grooming gestures. These are unconscious, repetitive actions that are designed to self-soothe and burn off nervous energy. To an FBI agent, these aren't just nervous tics. They are physical manifestations of internal turmoil. These gestures can be subtle. It might be a person repeatedly adjusting their tie when there's nothing wrong with it. It could be a woman twisting a strand of hair over and over. It might be someone picking lint off their clothes, even if there's no lint there. These are displacement activities. The brain is screaming, "I'm in a high-stakes, threatening situation," and that anxiety needs an outlet. The body finds one in these small, seemingly meaningless tasks. The key, as always, is the context and the change from baseline. A person might be a natural fidgeter, but if they are perfectly still during casual conversation, and then, when asked about their whereabouts on the night of the crime, they suddenly begin frantically cleaning their glasses or smoothing their pants, that's a massive red flag. The gesture is a physical reaction to a specific stimulus, the question that is causing them stress. It's the body's attempt to restore a sense of calm and order in a moment of extreme internal chaos. The lie is creating a storm inside, and these gestures are the rattling windows. The telltale heart effect. While general grooming gestures are a sign of anxiety, there is a specific subset of pacifying behaviors that are so closely linked to deception they deserve their own category. These are the gestures that involve touching the face and the neck. The impulse is so common and so primal that it's often called the telltale heart effect, after Edgar Allan Poe's story of a murderer whose guilt is uncontrollably revealed. When a person lies, they often have an unconscious urge to cover their mouth. It's a symbolic, almost childlike gesture, as if to physically stop the lie from escaping. This might manifest as a full hand-over-mouth movement, or more subtly, as a few fingers resting on the lips, or a casual-looking stroke of the chin. Similarly, touching the nose is a common tell. Researchers have dubbed this the Pinocchio effect. The stress of lying can cause a release of catecholamines, which can cause blood vessels in the nose to swell, creating a tingling or itching sensation that the liar feels compelled to touch. Touching the neck is another powerful indicator of deception. The front of the neck is a place of immense vulnerability, home to the carotid artery and the jugular vein. When a person feels threatened or exposed, as they do when they fear their lie is being discovered, they may instinctively reach up to touch or cover this area. It could be rubbing the side of the neck, pulling at their collar, or touching the dimple at the base of the throat, the suprasternal notch. It's a primal, defensive gesture. The brain perceives the lie as a threat to its survival, and the body responds by protecting one of its most vulnerable points. The hands are literally trying to shield the liar from the consequences of their own words. Establishing a baseline. This is the most important rule. It is the foundation upon which all other observations are built. Without it, everything else is just guesswork. None of the signs we've discussed, not a single one, is a universal, guaranteed proof of a lie. A person might touch their nose because it itches. They might cross their arms because they're cold. They might speak faster because they're excited. The golden rule of deception detection, drilled into every FBI agent, is that you can't spot a lie until you know what the truth looks like. This is the process of establishing a baseline. Before an interrogator ever gets to the tough questions, they spend time in casual, non-threatening conversation. They'll ask about the person's job, their family, their hobbies. They are not just building rapport, they are gathering crucial data. They are observing how this specific individual communicates when they are relaxed and telling the truth. How fast do they normally talk? What is their normal blink rate? What are their go-to gestures? Where do their eyes go when they recall a genuine memory? This entire profile of normal behavior is the baseline. The hunt for deception is actually a hunt for deviation. The agent looks for the moment the suspect's behavior breaks from their established baseline. If a person who normally speaks slowly and calmly suddenly starts talking a mile a minute when asked about their alibi, that's a deviation. If a person who is normally very animated with their hands suddenly sits on them and becomes perfectly still, that's a deviation. The tell isn't the behavior itself, it's the change in behavior in response to a specific stimulus. Without a baseline, you're just interpreting noise. With the baseline, you can begin to see the signal, the subtle, involuntary confession that the body makes when the mouth is busy telling a lie.